The debate that shook the world. Ibrahim Traoré vs. Jim Jordan. It was a humid May morning in 2025 when President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso received an unexpected call in his presidential office in Ouagadougou. On the line was his communications director, Yakuba Sawadogo, his voice brisk and excited. "Mr. President, CNN has invited you to join a live international debate on democracy and leadership in the 21st century." Ibrahim, now 35, had grown used to global attention, but this felt different. "Who will I be debating?" he asked, walking to the window, where the streets of the capital buzzed with morning energy. "Several leaders, sir, but the primary opponent will be Congressman Jim Jordan of the United States. He requested you specifically." Ibrahim raised an eyebrow. Jordan, the hardline Republican from Ohio, known for his aggressive questioning and blunt rhetoric, recently criticized young African leaders as unstable and illegitimate. "He requested me." "Yes, Mr. President. He wants to challenge your credibility on live television." Ibrahim smiled. "Except schedule it for next week, and have all our governance and development data ready." Preparation onto countenance in Washington. Jim Jordan sat in his congressional office, reviewing briefing notes on African politics. "Congressman," said aide Sarah Mitchell, "President Traoré has impressive numbers. His approval ratings are over 80%. Jordan dismissed her with a wave. "Sarah, he's just another strongman. Military-backed, media-polished, but still a dictator in disguise." Meanwhile, in Ouagadougou, Ibrahim was deep in prep. His foreign minister, Dr. Alonso Ouedraogo, laid down a thick folder of data. "Mr. President, since 2022, we've reduced corruption by 67%, implemented transparent budgets, and held 3 free municipal elections. Turnout averaged 89%. International observers confirmed all of it." "And constitutional reform?" Ibrahim asked. "Ongoing with civil society participation," Ouedraogo confirmed. In contrast, Jordan's prep revolved around one talking point. He took power in a coup. He ignored updates on Burkina Faso's reforms, focusing instead on how to label Traoré as undemocratic. The youth of Africa responds that evening. Ibrahim met with a delegation of student leaders. Among them was Aminata Kabor, our Sha'ar, Euro university student. "Mr. President," she asked, "this American congressman thinks Africans aren't capable of democracy. How will you answer him?" Ibrahim smiled. "With facts, with dignity, and with the truth about what we've built together." That night, his wife Ajara watched him practice in their residence. "You're calmer than I expected," she said. "I have nothing to fear," he replied. "Confidence comes easily when you stand on truth." The debate begins on May 20, 2025. CNN studios in Atlanta buzzed with anticipation. The debate had been branded a clash of generations. American experience vs. African innovation. More than 50 million viewers across the globe were expected to tune in. In Ouagadougou, Ibrahim adjusted his navy blue suit, the same one he'd worn during a viral exchange with U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris months earlier in Washington. Jim Jordan paced in CNN's D.C. bureau, rehearsing his attack lines. "This kid won't know what hit him," he said with a smirk. Live on CNN, Traoré vs. Jordan at 7:45 p.m. Eastern. The satellite feeds linked. Anderson Cooper introduced the debaters. Joining us tonight, Congressman Jim Jordan from Ohio, and President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. Jordan struck immediately. Anderson, let's be real, why? Are we giving airtime to someone who took power through a military coup? That's not democracy. Ibrahim remained composed. Congressman Jordan, I appreciate your concern for democratic principles. But may I ask why? Does your country have one of the lowest voter turnout rates in the developed world? Jordan blinked. Well, that's not the point, actually. It's exactly the point, Ibrahim replied smoothly. You question my legitimacy while presiding over a system where barely 60% of eligible citizens vote. In Burkina Faso, turnout is 89%. The studio was quiet. Anderson Cooper leaned in. Congressman, cared to respond? Jordan stiffened. The American system has worked for 250 years. That's admirable, Ibrahim said. But tell me, how often has your Congress achieved an 80% approval rating from your people? Jordan looked uneasy. Approval ratings don't mean everything. You're right, Ibrahim said. So let's talk about results. A reality check in real time since taking office, Ibrahim continued. We've built 847 new schools, reduced child mortality by 31%, eliminated corruption in state contracts. What legislation have you personally authored that has had measurable impact on American lives? Jordan hesitated, clearly rattled. Viewers worldwide watched as a young African leader outmaneuvered an experienced American lawmaker, not with insults, but with facts, grace, and unwavering clarity. The debate had just begun, but a global shift in perception was already underway. Facts versus rhetoric. Ibrahim Traoré dismantles Jim Jordan on live TV. I've always been a strong advocate for fiscal responsibility. Congressman Jim Jordan stammered, President. Ibrahim Traoré didn't flinch. That's not what I asked, he said calmly. I asked for specific legislation with measurable results. You've served in Congress for 17 years, Congressman. Surely you have concrete accomplishments to share. Anderson Cooper watched in real time as Jordan's bravado faltered. The man, famous for grilling witnesses, was now struggling under the weight of fact-based cross-examination. Well, I've been very active in oversight, Jordan offered. Oversight is important, Ibrahim replied. In Burkina Faso, our independent audit committees recovered over $2 billion in misused public funds. Our national budget is published online every quarter. Citizens can track every dollar. Does Congress offer this level of transparency? Jordan scowled. The American system is ... more complex. More complex or less accountable? Ibrahim asked smoothly. You criticize how I came to power, yet I've stood for 3 municipal elections. When was your last competitive race? Jordan froze. His last 3 elections had been won by over 30-point margins in a gerrymandered district. That's different, he muttered. Is it? Ibrahim smiled faintly. You represent a district drawn to guarantee your victory, yet question the legitimacy of elections monitored by international observers. That seems ... contradictory. Online and on fire, social media erupted. Jordan's getting wrecked on his own turf. Traoré is running this debate like a courtroom. This isn't a debate, it's a demolition. Desperate to recover, Jordan switched tactics. Let's talk stability, Mr. President. Africa has a history of military coups. How can Americans trust leaders from that background? Ibrahim's response was surgical. Congressman, Burkina Faso has seen zero political violence since I took office. Can the United States say the same? Jordan blinked. What do you mean? You've had the January 6th attack on your capital, countless mass shootings, deepening political division. Meanwhile, we've restored security, defeated terrorist groups, and expanded infrastructure. The blow landed hard, Ibrahim continued. You question my military background, yet I've never launched foreign wars on false intelligence. I've never approved drone strikes that killed civilians. My military service has protected lives, not endangered them abroad. Jordan's face flushed. That's not a fair comparison, isn't it? Ibrahim countered. Your country has been at war for 2 of the last 3 decades. We've achieved more domestic peace in 3 years than some democracies have in a generation. The turning point, Anderson Cooper stepped in. Congressman, would you like to respond? I think we're getting off track, Jordan said defensively. No, Ibrahim replied. We're getting to the heart of the issue. You came here to discredit me based on assumptions because I'm young, African, and came from the military. But facts matter more than your comfort. He gestured off camera. We've reached a 96% school enrollment rate. What's the rate? In your district, Congressman, Jordan faltered. I'd have to look that up. It's 87%, Ibrahim said. So the country you consider less developed is outperforming your own district in education. Shouldn't you be asking yourself who's more qualified to lead? Gasps rippled through the CNN studio. One final blow. Jordan attempted one last angle. But Burkina Faso is still a poor country. The average income is low. Americans want strong economies. You're right, Ibrahim nodded. We are developing. So tell me, what's the median income in your district? It varies. It's $54,000 per year, Ibrahim said. In the last 3 years, Burkina Faso's average income has grown by 47%. In your 17 years in office, your district's median income has grown by 12%, adjusted for inflation. He let that sink in. So while your numbers are higher, our rate of progress is nearly 4 times faster. If trends continue, we'll reach middle-income status within a decade. Can your constituents say they're 4 times better off? Jordan was speechless. The collapse. Ibrahim went further. We've implemented universal health care, tuition-free education through university, and guaranteed housing. These are not campaign promises. They are realities. What equivalent programs have you delivered? Jordan stumbled again. America has different challenges. Indeed, Ibrahim said. But leadership means solving problems, not reciting them. You've had 17 years. I've had 3, and our results speak for themselves. Twitter lit up. Ibrahim Traoré just handed Jim Jordan a lesson in governance. This is what happens when you show up to a policy debate with talking points instead of knowledge. Traoré. Jordan was trending in 32 countries within minutes. The final nail: you're not even democratically elected. Jordan snapped in a last-ditch effort. Actually, Ibrahim said coolly, I am. Unlike your gerrymandered district, our elections are fair, our turnout is higher, our budgets are public, and our results are measurable. By every democratic metric that matters, Burkina Faso is outperforming your constituency. The debate ended with Jordan visibly shaken. Anderson Cooper turned to the camera. I've moderated many debates, he said. but I've rarely seen such a decisive dismantling. President Traoré came prepared with data, with vision, and with receipts. Congressman Jordan brought assumptions. That's the difference between rhetoric and reality. After the debate, a global reckoning in the hours following the CNN debate, political analysts across the spectrum were left stunned. The consensus was clear. President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso hadn't just held his ground against Congressman Jim Jordan, he had delivered a masterclass in modern governance. Dr. Sarah Williams, professor of international relations at Georgetown, tweeted, "This wasn't a debate. This was a dismantling." Traoré just redefined what leadership looks like on the world stage. Even Tucker Carlson, typically an ally of Jordan, admitted on air, "I agree with Jim Jordan on many issues, but he got wrecked tonight. That African president came with receipts. Jim didn't." Shockwaves at home in Ibrahim, Ohio, Jordan's constituents watched with growing discomfort. Local news stations were flooded with feedback. One viewer, farmer Mike Thompson, said it bluntly, "I voted for Jordan, but that African president made him look like a rookie." In Washington, GOP leaders scrambled to contain the damage. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell issued a cautious statement. "We support vigorous international debate, but our representatives must be prepared when they go on global platforms." Meanwhile, international reactions were seismic. Chancellor Olaf Scholz of Germany tweeted, "Traoré's performance signals a new era of African leadership. Germany welcomes deeper collaboration." President Emmanuel Macron stated, "Leadership is results, not rhetoric." President Traoré has shown both. Africa reacts with pride across Africa. The mood was jubilant. The African Union praised Traoré for representing the continent with integrity, intelligence, and measurable achievement. University campuses lit up with student-organized watch parties. Social media avatars were updated with Burkina Faso's flag. A continental pride had been ignited. In just 48 hours, the political narrative had flipped. Jim Jordan, once a rising Republican firebrand, was now under fire. "Jordan made us look arrogant and unprepared," admitted one senior GOP strategist. "He ran into someone who actually knows how to govern." A global star emerges in Ouagadougou. President Traoré's phone was ringing non-stop. Invitations poured in from Harvard University to deliver a commencement address, the United Nations, to chair a commission on youth leadership, the World Bank, to expand development partnerships. 12 countries have formally requested state visits in the past 24 hours, said Foreign Minister Dr. Ouedraogo. "This is unprecedented." Ibrahim, however, remained grounded. "Schedule them wisely," he told his staff. "But our priority remains serve our people. Results first, headlines later." American media forced to reflect. Even U.S. media couldn't ignore what had happened. The Washington Post's David Ignatius wrote, "Traoré has done more in 3 years than many Western politicians have in 30. CNN reported over 60 million global viewers, making the debate one of its most watched political broadcasts in history. Post-debate polls were devastating for Jordan. 73% of global viewers said Traoré won decisively. 0.76% of American viewers agreed. From debate stage 2, podium 1 month later, Ibrahim Traoré stood before the United Nations General Assembly, an invitation personally extended by Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. "Distinguished delegates," he began, "I am not here to lecture about democracy. I am here to demonstrate it through results. The applause was thunderous. He spoke of governance, youth, inclusion, accountability, not once mentioning the Jordan debate. He didn't need to. The world doesn't need more talk about democracy, he said. It needs proof that it works. The fallout for Jordan, meanwhile, back in Ohio, Jim Jordan was experiencing the harsh aftermath. His approval ratings plunged to decade lows. Local editorials called for his resignation. Sarah Henderson, a former state senator, announced a primary challenge. Ohio needs leaders who can hold their own on the world stage, not ones who get publicly humbled. Jordan lost his 2026 primary by 18 points, record-breaking defeat for a sitting congressman in Ohio. A new model of power, while Jordan faded. Traoré rose. Foreign investment in Burkina Faso surged by 400%. 3 international airports were under construction. Literacy had climbed to 94%, outpacing many developed nations, and on newsstands around the world. Time magazine's cover declared Person of the Year, Ibrahim Traoré, the rise of global competence. The global shift 6 months ago, Ibrahim told his wife Ajara during a walk in the palace gardens. Most Americans couldn't find Burkina Faso on a map. Now, they're studying us in universities. In Washington, former critics were quietly reassessing. Even President Trump, never one to lavish praise, purportedly told aides, "This guy gets results. We could learn something." An invitation for a state visit to Washington was extended. Traoré accepted. A new era begins. Reflecting on the debate during his year-end special, Anderson Cooper summed it up. That debate didn't just humble one congressman. It revealed the arrival of a new generation of global leadership rooted in results, not reputation. In his quiet office in Ouagadougou, Ibrahim Traoré prepared for another day of governance. He was 36 years old, and he had proven on the world stage that competence has no borders. The debate was a moment, but the movement had just begun.